everybody. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at what to do when your internet is offline, specifically how to use GPT models without being able to actually use them and interface with them. And maybe this will be solved differently in the future if we all have large language models running locally on our devices. But for now, if you want to commune with a mothership, you need to be online to get access to the cloud. In this video, we're specifically going to be talking about different things that you can do when your internet is offline, which is not even just handy for when you're on your computer and your internet is offline, but when you're out and about and you're thinking about ways to solve this problem. We're going to teach you how to game with GPT without actually being around GPT, and then we are going to talk about the different states that are involved with this. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Please be sure to subscribe to my newsletter in the description below. I release one every Sunday, and I talk about really interesting stuff related to AI and not related to AI. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and have a good one. So I'm going to assume you have internet if you're watching this video right now. Probably a fair assumption. But if you're anything like me, your internet will go down maliciously multiple times throughout the day without reason or without cause. And this might be problematic if you are doing a lot of work that involves the internet, specifically GPT related work. So I want to talk about how you can kind of interface with ChatGPT when your internet sucks ass. So we've all seen this before. Your internet's down, saying, hey, you can check your connection. Maybe there's a firewall. And this would rationally send most people into a rage. You know, here we are trying to do some work, especially in the era of 2023, where we're all using large language models to help us do our work. And it doesn't work because your internet's down. That's a way to kind of get really angry really quickly and just kind of like want to bail out. So I think that you have a few options in this era, right? Where you want to do your work and you have no access to large language model, whether that's something like writing an email or writing your code, or I can say this from personal experience where sometimes I'll be coding something and Copilot will go down and I'm just like, to hell with it. I don't want to code this that bad anyway, and I'll stop coding. So you can do the thing that, you know, we did before large language models and kind of just be like, whatever, and continue to find a lower valence way of working, let's argue, right? Where you're basically saying, I can still work. I can find a way to make it work. I'll just do the kind of slower thing. And that every once in a while, I think is the right decision. Being able to still prove to yourself that you can write code without having a super autonomous, super robot auto-completing all your code for you is probably a necessary thing to check every once in a while. But then you'll wake up to the fact that, you know, this is again 2023 and you might just say, hey, let's back it up and do work later. So these are two options that you can do. You can basically say like, hey, I'm just going to continue working, or you can kind of just give up. But I don't think that you need to do either. And because I've been in this situation multiple times, I can say that I've tried to come up with a plan that allows me to work, quote unquote, with ChatGPT without actually being able to access GPT. And this works when you're on your phone or on even like a notepad, right? If you have paper and you want to write out a plan, you can do a lot of that thinking on the go or outside on a walk or enjoying some time with your friends, and then just jotting down these ideas for later. So what are these ideas for this what to do offline? Let's talk about kindling, guessing, and goal state. So if you've seen my video about the kindling, verification, escalation, and goal state, you'll kind of be familiar with these topics, but I'm talking about them again here because they actually apply to offline work. So kindling, for example, is sourcing really high quality material that you can use for your ChatGPT work. And what that means is you're kind of like seeding the model with really good information that you find, because some prompts are better than others. And a way to do that consistently is to apply good kindling, which is going to be really good knowledge that you can find specifically from books, is where I get a lot of my high quality kindling from, or really high quality documentation, anything that you're kind of looking for. The next is the goal state. The goal state is what you hope that the model will do. So the goal state is kind of like, this is the general area where something is complete. If you've ever done agile programming, you'll be familiar with the concept of when tickets are closed and when tickets are open. And the idea is that when a ticket is closed, you've completed the feature or solved the bug that has the user's problem, right? So that's kind of the goal state. You're like saying, okay, is this done? Does it do the thing that I expect it to do when I would quantify it as done? And finally, the most fun and hardest part is guessing, right? Like you get to serve as GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, which is kind of like a weird theory of mind thing because the model itself doesn't have a theory of mind, even though people are kind of going back and forth on that at this point. But you basically get to say like, do I think that GPT 3.5 would be able to handle this query? And what about my problem set is too difficult to be able to figure out that GPT 3.5 can't do, that I would need something like a GPT 4 to do? Many years ago, I was the author of this library called Chronology, which does something similar. It allows you to take prompt lines and then build kind of prompt monoliths with kind of leveraging GPT as a chain. This was well before chain got into the mix. But this is the kind of idea where you want to chain prompts together, feeding one output to another. And this is the guess step, right? You're like saying, oh, I think I can break down my problem into smaller subproblems, and then my guesses become more accurate. So if you're doing the guessing step, it becomes more accurate if you have smaller problems that you're doing, which leads back to kindling, right? Like if you have more highly dense kindling, then you get better guesses and you get better goal states as well and better output. So as we just discussed, kindling is material to be input to chat GPT. Specifically, try different rewardings and try different formats. Guessing is what you expect from the model, like regular work, but you can only do the shells. So what I mean by that is instead of saying like, okay, I'm actually going to go out and write the code that does this, I'm actually just going to write the shells of what I expect it to do. A lot of managers do this, and higher level people, when they actually task their lower level people to go and do the execution of things, they'll kind of game out what's going to happen and what they think will happen, and they'll write it out as shells, and then they'll kind of say how close is reality to the imagined world. And you can do something similar. So for example, if you want to pseudocode out the CRUD for an app, you'll know that you'll need a user object that's going to create, read, update, and delete. And then finally the goal state, which is where you want the conversation to end. This is another thing where I was saying like you want to get it close to whatever your status of closed is, whether that's a interesting poem or an interesting song or an interesting picture if you're doing something with Midjourney or Dolly. But for the cases of GPT, it's generally in the field of text and code. And while you're there, you can basically say that this is verifiably the email that I want to send, or this is verifiably the creative way I was trying to rephrase this, and etc. So that's the video. There are things that you can do when your internet is offline, and you don't need to be completely stunted in an era where we're all using large language models. So thank you for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to the channel.